Let's talk about Advanced Micro Devices earnings report here. Stock symbol AMD had a double beat, really impressive, solid reaction after hours. I wouldn't say it was an out of the park home run, but nonetheless was a pretty good move to the upside. Now, one of the things about AMD is it has lagged a lot of the movement that you've seen out of semiconductors over the past year. AMD has pulled back about 2/3 off of its all-time highs. It's already seen a major correction in its stock price. And so now we're getting a little bit of a bounce off of the April lows. It's about 33% higher off of those lows, but it still has a long ways to go before it ever reaches its glory days from 2024. So what I want to do in this video is I want to analyze the charts. I want to go through the technical analysis and project going forward where I think that this stock could end up taking us. So let's go ahead and look at that right now. Let's take a look at the very near term here, because what we have is essentially a rising trend line off of these lows here. It dips down below it just a little bit here on the first test, and then it comes back and tests it perfectly here on the second, and then it makes a decent move to the upside. Now, where that move that we're seeing over the past couple of days is significant is the fact that it represents a breakout of this ascending triangle pattern. So these two lines, it marks by a rising trend line underneath and then a flat resistance overhead, and then when it breaks out, that tends to be a bullish scenario. So we got it back above the 50-day moving average, which it has struggled to do and hold that over the years. Now, this is after hours. This is the earnings reaction. Now, without the earnings reaction, this is what you're looking at here. You're seeing a move where it closed just barely above. Essentially, it broke out above it, came back down today, tested it, and now with the after hours trading, we're looking at a significant gap higher tomorrow if that can hold into the open. But there is some resistance that you're going to want to be aware of. And the first one starts here, going back to these highs from October. You can see where it tested it back later that month, and then it didn't test it again until March of this year. So we have a significant declining trend line here that is being tested. And so far, after hours, it's struggling with that level. So that is a key level to watch going into tomorrow. Can it break through this 102.69? Let's make it even more broader. Let's give it a little bit more wiggle room. Let's say, can it break through 103? And if it can do that, it may get off to the races, start attracting some additional buyers as well. Then there is this declining trend line going all the way back to the February highs of 2024. And so this is not nearly as steep, but the reason why this is important is because if it does end up breaking through this 103 level, the next level of resistance that you're going to want to pay close attention to is this 122 level. Now, this is going to decline each and every day because it's a declining trend line. And so if it tests it, let's say a month from now, it may be down like in the 116, 117 range versus right now, it's currently around 122. So that number continues to get smaller and smaller, which means the reward potential or target price is going to be less and less as well. So an ascending triangle pattern, that's these two yellow lines right here, flat resistance, rising trend line underneath, breakout, testing this resistance right now at 103, needs to push through that, and then the next target would become this declining trend line here at around 122. But let's go ahead and look at it from a long-term standpoint here, because it's always good to have the big picture in mind. And that is this rising trend line going back to 2018. And this is a significant level because it tested it at the end or at the beginning of 2019, and then it tested again in 2022 when it reached those bottoms there with the rest of the market that bottomed out in October of that year. And then it hasn't tested it again until April here. So we actually had it tested this rising trend line, perfect trend line going all the way back to 2018, tested it, held it, and then we're starting to bounce. Now, if it's anything like what we have seen when it's previously tested these lines, like what we saw here in 2019, where it went on this epic run going from 18 all the way up to 165, and then it pulls back down to 57. There's huge rises and there's huge falls on this stock. And when it's running amazingly well. And so this could be the start of another big move. Now, if that's the case, one, it needs to put in a higher high, which that would take it well beyond 227. But in doing so, you have to be aware of the potential for another massive sell-off at AMD down the road. Now, I'm really starting to project out into the future here. This isn't like in the here or now by any means, but it kind of gives you an idea of where we may be at in this cycle. It may be finally holding this support level. This is going to be key. If it does break this level, that's a huge warning sign and probably a good reason to get out of the stock, not get in it. And you're going to want to pay close attention to that level on any kind of a pullback. So right now, it looks very similar to the beginning stages of what we saw in late 2022. It doesn't mean that you just go dogpile into AMD, but I don't think that it's necessarily at a bad place right now either relative to where it's been before and what history dictates it's capable of doing in the future. So anytime you get into a trade or an investment, you want to have an exit plan. Like what will cause you to get out of the trade if it doesn't work out the way that you expect? But with AMD, long term, nice solid trend line. In the short term, you have this declining trend line from February. That needs to break to really get the bullish engines going on this stock. And tomorrow, it can take that first step in doing so by breaking above this declining trend line in the very near term at 103. And AMD is one of the more wild semiconductor plays out there. It does tend to get a lot of hype from retail. Retail has loved this stock over the years, but it's also punished retail as a result of that love as well. When you're trading AMD, like any other stock, you got to use stop losses. It's absolutely paramount that you do so. And if it can break through 103, great. But then be aware of the resistance that is around that 120 to 122 level. If you enjoyed this video, I would encourage you to like and subscribe. And let me know down in the comments below, what is your take on AMD? What is your plans for this stock? Are you long on it right now? Did you buy off of that rising trend line? Or are you waiting for it to go much lower? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you guys, and God bless.